Boston College. He did it. He did it. Looney did it.
I want to go higher.
Batted up.
Oh, God. Stokely down the side.
You know, Thomas, I've been thinking about this podcast, and I've been thinking all podcasts have to have an alter ego.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, what is our alter ego? And I think we have an alter ego. It's the unlimited podcast. We have to have a mindset of being unlimited.
Hey, that's the best quarterback in the league, bro.
Get my bit now.
If he's a little weird, that's okay.
So, another podcast that's opening with me doing kind of like an inside joke reference that if people aren't like tapped in are going to think I'm just fucking stupid.
Yes.
That's probably how most of them are going to be. But this is Extra Point Podcast episode 4? 4? Right?
Yes.
A month of doing this? How
Pretty
many episodes
good.
did we do of the XFL Extra Point?
It
23?
was like 20 plus,
Yeah.
something in the low 20s.
Well, we're getting there. Anyway, guys, this week we're going to talk about some news that happened. We're going to talk about, of course, our 2013 NFL Redraft. And this is going to be part, what did we start on, 2010? So this is part 4? I guess that makes sense. It's episode 4. It's part 4
Yes.
of the Redraft Series.
What are we going
And
to do when we like get too close to like the now?
We're just going to do up until we can, I mean, we won't do 2020. Because, like,
Yeah.
how the fuck are we going to know?
Yeah.
I don't imagine the football season will have started by the time we get to 2020.
Are we going to do like a 2021 mock thing or what?
I mean, sure.
Okay.
You know what I had in mind for that? We're just riffing now. We're just talking business. But I was thinking
That's true.
whenever we get the website going, you write that article, then we come onto the show. I make a nice graphic with your mock draft, and then we go and I have no, and I'll try to get educated, I guess, about that stuff. But I can kind of have disagree or agree. Let you defend yourself.
I may have already wrote one, but it needs to be entirely reworked now. So
Yeah. Okay. So let me plug some shit.
Yes.
Before we start talking about sports. First thing got to plug is the Twitter, which is probably the most important way you can help us out right now. It's by going and following us on Twitter. When the XFL closed, we dropped below 1,000 followers. Not far below.
But below.
Like 993, somewhere in there, you know.
not
And
1,000.
then we were at like 1,030, so we lost 40 or so.
Which,
followers.
Understandable.
Yeah, I mean, people tuned into us for the XFL.
There's no
We
more
were no longer
XFL
covering
right
the
now.
XFL. Mhm.
Mhm.
And so now we're trying to get that Twitter following back up, try to grow from where we were at. And if you guys go follow us there, it would mean a lot. It would help us out a lot. And we'll interact with you guys. Anytime something happens, I like to tweet about it. And if you guys send us questions, we answer them on the show. And we haven't got any new questions. I haven't really posed it, so I need to pose it on Twitter and see if people are interested in, asking questions. We also, if you want to ask questions, we have an email that doesn't get used very often, except for some business things. And that's xtrapointcontact@gmail.com. So send any questions or anything you want to send. Maybe we'll discuss it on the show. But now, let's get into talking about some shit. All right, first thing we're going to talk about. Can you smell what The Rock is cooking?
I can, and it's the XFL whenever it comes back.
XFL 3.0. So,
Let's
this
go.
week, big news. We knew Monday that the sale of the XFL was going to happen. My thoughts going into that was I didn't really go fuck because I was like, probably going to get bought by some company that just wants to have it and doesn't want to do anything with it. And then it was The Rock. That came out of left field.
Now, to be clear, it's not just The Rock. It's an investment group of which he is a partner in. So he's like maybe 5% of the total purchase, but like he'll definitely be the face of it because he's The Rock. So why would you not?
You have to.
Yeah.
We also have Danny Garcia, who was his ex-wife and business partner. Interesting relationship.
Yes.
But yeah, the ex-wife and business partner, and then it's let me get the name of the thing real quick.
It's a Redbird or something.
Redbird Capital.
I don't know how I know that off top.
The conglomerate that bought into this. Now it was only $15 million, which is awfully cheap for a sports league.
So how they bought it was an auction, and that was literally the only offer that wasn't like, we'll give you like $500,000.
Which, all right. I mean, things were trending in the right direction for the XFL.
Mm-hmm.
And it shut down not because it sucked and not because it was like how XFL 1.0 was.
Yeah, like people are like, oh, XFL shut down again. Who saw that coming? It's like there was a global pandemic, you clowns.
Yeah, it shut down because it shut down the same way every league shut down. The thing is, those leagues had been around for years and had income that they could pay people, keep things going. And you couldn't do that with the XFL. So they declared bankruptcy, whatever it is, Chapter 11, whatever any of that business speak means.
Actually, the XFL could do that, but Vince McMahon was like, I'm fucking done with fucking football.
He's like, it never works.
Yes. So, and the way they had the actual ownership of the league set up, where the coaches were the owners, was just weird.
Yeah.
So maybe now that it's actually owned fully by like one investment group, it might actually be better. So
I read somewhere, and it's probably in this article that I'm looking at right here in front of my face. There was talks that they might bring back in. Oh, we get a little reframe.
Sorry, I'm fucking with my shit. Keep going. Keep talking. Distract. Deflect.
That they were gonna bring back maybe a lot of the same people they had in charge.
I mean, that'd be a good idea. If we can still use the Oliver Luck plug for our show, that'd be all right. Yeah,
right. I can use Commissioner. That'd be great. I'd actually love that. That was hard to get and didn't get enough use out of it. But so it says Garcia suggested that the league will largely keep the format and much of the same executive team. She says, I think there was a lot to build on, which there was.
There was. I think that's the right move.
And I think the only thing working against the XFL 2.0, was that there was still just too many people who took it as a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you slap The Rock's face on it, everyone fucks with The Rock. Everyone fucks with The Rock. Like,
no one doesn't fuck with The Rock.
So you have The Rock as your face. You going to tell The Rock that his football league is a joke? I'm not.
I'm not
getting into that, bro.
And some people are being like, the XFL needs to capitalize on the NFL right now, make a bubble right now, and start. Like, no, you can't do it right now. Like,
it was what when the league started again in February. It was like 2 years build up to that.
Yeah, like it's gonna be some time. Like at the very earliest, I would probably say not 2021, but 2022 at the earliest.
I could see it in 2021. Only reason is because if they're going to keep a lot of the same foundation in place, they already have TV deals. Those deals are still valid.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but do you think they're going to start in the spring of 2021?
Here's the thing.
Or are they going to compete
much
in the fall?
Different than the NFL in the way that you can do this in a bubble.
Exactly.
You can.
But there has to be, you have to figure that out is all. There's a lot of logistics involved. So, because with basketball, and it was hard as fuck for basketball to get that done too. Basketball, you're bringing maybe 25, 30 people per team. Football, that's not even the whole roster.
But you had players. 22 teams, whereas the XFL, you had 8.
That is true. That's a good point, actually. I mean, it's possible, but I feel like not probable for it to happen.
No, not probable for sure. But yes, I think it's possible. I think if they're really like, if the NFL shuts down for whatever reason, what are situations in which the NFL would have to shut down the season? I can only think of one.
It's like mass outbreak and people start dying.
I think if someone dies, it's over. You can't you can't keep going if someone dies.
Yeah.
Now, if someone catches it, people have already caught it. You can keep going. You can miss someone, even if it's a star player. You can keep going. Star players get injured out for season. It happens.
Yeah.
So, COVID, not that much different. Now, the difference is if someone dies, then you obviously have to then go, well, now, no, it's not just getting sick. It's people can die. So now we have to.
People can die. Which people can.
They can, but, sports leagues can kind of be like, well, not our guys.
Yeah.
The people are dying are 85-year-olds. These are tip-top shape athletes. They're not going to die from this virus. Which is probably a dumb opinion to have. But it's the opinion a lot of them have. So yes. I think, anyway, back to the XFL. They're going to they could do it in 2021 if they really wanted to capitalize.
I just think if they're still going to make it a spring season, I don't know how you would have all the logistics in order at that point. Maybe, I mean, if they already still have existing deals with all this other stuff, if the framework is there, I could maybe see that happening in the spring. But if they have to if they're doing like a bubble, I think there's no way that you can start in the spring of 2021, which is only, like 4 or 5 months away. So, but maybe I'm wrong.
February.
I don't know how that works, obviously, because I'm just some jerk off in an apartment. I'm not an executive. I don't know how all this shit works. So maybe I'm wrong.
So 5 months to put something together.
And that's also because if college football is having a spring season, you're not going to have as big of a player pool as you would normally. So there's just a lot of obstacles to overcome. So
that's true.
But
yeah, more I'm thinking about it. I don't know.
Maybe they got to figure it out. It's just time is all. And other things being.
Oop, I lost you, Thomas. I lost you for a second.
Did you? Oh, there you go. We're back. We're back.
Anyway, XFL coming back at some point. The Rock is the face. I think its value's only increased. If they keep the product that was on the field was not a bad thing.
It was not at all. It was fun to watch.
It was.
A good time.
And the little things they did with the fan access, and it was so much more lighthearted in nature.
It was so less. I mean, we talked about this on our other show, which is still up on Spotify and
YouTube. You can still, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can scroll through and look at our old videos.
But it was so much less mechanical and less like we are the NFL family entertainment. Which I mean, when you're $1 trillion corporation, you get that way just because that's how it goes. But hopefully they bring back like Pat McAfee and like do whatever he wants.
I know that he was like, put me in the booth,
and they were like,
fantastic. No. It would be fantastic.
You just need to pair him with somebody that can like be like, all right, let's reel it in. But
I like Steve Levy.
Steve Levy was good. There was not a lot I didn't like about the XFL. They had one major refereeing debacle, and that was only the only really bad thing. So, and how they set up ownership, where the coaches were the owners of the teams, which meant they couldn't be fired at all.
Yeah,
that was kind of weird. That was kind of asking for trouble.
That's something we found out after the fact, though.
Yeah, because when Oliver Luck sued Vince McMahon, all the financial documents came out, but that's just weird because that's literally like if you don't perform over the long term,
that seems short-sighted. Seems very short-sighted.
It's what you get when you are Vince McMahon, I suppose.
Yeah, but I think here's the thing: Vince McMahon is a running joke. Vince McMahon is a living meme. He is like your stereotypical bad guy billionaire in a movie.
Yes.
And he may not be completely that way in real life, but he's painted himself that way, and that's his image. Whereas The Rock, who's going to now be the face, even though Vince McMahon really wasn't the face, but everyone still connected it to Vince, even we did. And how much did Vince actually have anything to do with it?
Probably very little.
Financing it?
Probably very little.
Probably very little. And I think The Rock would be much the same.
There wasn't strippers and all this other shit, so probably very little.
Probably very little. So, yes. But there was still, that's who you thought of when you were like, who runs the XFL? Well, it's Vince McMahon. And the casual audience was going, well, Vince McMahon is a douchebag. He's a bad guy. And this is a joke. He does the scripted wrestling shit. And this is all a joke. Now you have The Rock, who you'd also would think, is connected to scripted wrestling shit. But not anymore. Now he's the face of entertainment in general.
Yes.
And
he's
so, yeah, you connect him to something and it's going to be good. I mean, maybe not quality good because some of his movies are trash. But, he's a box office draw. And the same thing would be for this league. You bring The Rock out there on the field for the first game, everyone's tuning into that shit.
If they do the fucking, can you smell what the XFL is cooking again? We could put that in the intro. Be money.
Okay, well, one last thing about the XFL. Let's have an on-air discussion about this.
Okay.
We can't go back to a show solely dedicated to the XFL.
We can't, because we've already kind of leaned into
Now, will we probably still be talking about the XFL more than most? Probably.
Yeah, because it's fun.
And I think if you want XFL stuff, when XFL stuff happens, you could tune into our show and expect us to be talking about XFL stuff.
And maybe if, like, all the sports kick back off once all this stuff blows over, we might have, like, more episodes a week and to split it up a little bit, maybe. But we'll kind of figure out how that goes. Depends on how much we want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're going to be doing anything like, XFL draft preview where it's 3 hours long. Because, I mean, if we did that with all of our other stuff, our episodes would be like 4 or 5 hours, and nobody wants to listen to that.
We struggle to keep people for 2 hours at this point.
Yes. We have, I think I'm looking at our last episode on YouTube has like 4 views. So.
Yeah. No, it's up and down. It depends
Yes.
on the week. I thought that one was going to be good, but, maybe this week. Maybe
Yes.
some of our XFL loyals will come back now that the league has been revived. All right, let's move on to a more somber note. And that's Darius Geis.
Darius Geis.
So, Darius Geis was arrested last week, I guess, so this comes out on Monday. Last week for domestic violence charges. One was strangulation.
Mm-hmm.
Not great.
No bueno. No bueno.
Now, I know it's been like touted as for the Redskins a culture change, but I mean it's not like the team was gonna let this.
It's not a culture change. They still have Reuben Foster on the team. It's not a culture change.
No team was gonna keep Darius Geis after that.
No, because the NFL actually takes domestic abuse seriously now when
Yes.
they didn't before, especially because he's a running back and he's replaceable and he didn't produce. So
Yeah. I mean, we still have Kareem Hunt in the league.
Go Browns, baby.
Mm-hmm. So I don't think Darius Geis gets on another team.
I think his career is over.
It was already not looking good for him. That's the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I hate to say this, but Kareem Hunt was a valuable player. Kareem Hunt was very good. Darius Geis couldn't stay healthy.
Yeah, Kareem Hunt was a proven producer. He's a good player. Darius Geis, I liked him a lot coming out of college. I liked him better in the NFL than I thought I was going to like Leonard Fournette, if that makes sense. He fell to the second round because apparently he had some issues at LSU as well that I couldn't find any details about. So that's that. He's probably – I don't think he'll – now, I don't know. This is obviously unrelated, but I don't think he'll serve like a long jail sentence because whatever. Like the strangulation is a felony charge. I bet that gets put down. But he's not going to get re-signed by another team unless it's for dirt cheap and someone's desperate or somebody who really, really likes him.
I still just can't even see that.
It just depends because Kareem Hunt wouldn't have gotten picked up unless John Dorsey. He was one of John Dorsey's boys.
That's true.
The Browns. He would not have gotten picked up, and Kareem Hunt's really good. So I don't think he'll get picked up unless someone really likes him and like really is like, let's give him another chance, which everyone deserves a second chance. Blah 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 blah, all that. But at the same time, like, come on. So.
Yeah, I don't know the details of anything that happened in college. I know that there was character concerns in the draft, and that might have been part of the reason, and injury issues.
Yeah,
and that was part of the reason he fell.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he already had a second chance. I don't know.
Maybe, and I mean, it's just how it goes. It's unfortunate. Yeah, you can say, oh, it's sad that his career is over, but like this is his fault, so whatever.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's move on to some more sort of somber news. Not as somber as domestic violence.
Depression cast.
Ben Simmons out for season, likely.
Yep.
Likely. Now that's the little asterisk you have to put in there. So he's gonna have to have arthroscopic surgery on his left knee because he popped it out during a game.
So it's subluxated. So this actually happened to me. So I know how this goes.
Okay.
Probably not to the same extent because I didn't need surgery. Shit hurts. Basically, it's where your kneecap, it doesn't dislocate, but it moves and then moves back, and it fucking hurts. Go ahead.
The big problem with Ben Simmons is that it's something like a foreign body or something like that got under the kneecap, and that's what they have to do. They have to do surgery on. They have to remove that.
Yeah,
and
that didn't happen to me. So
yeah, the thing is, people are, it's not the most severe thing. It's not tearing your ACL.
Still, I mean,
it's not tearing your Achilles. Now, yes, he has to have surgery, but there is a small chance he can play again this season. And the only way that could happen is if the Sixers somehow get to, like, the finals.
Yeah, so doubt that's happening.
Yeah, unlikely.
Could it happen? Yes.
Then we go into a bigger conversation like, what do the Sixers look like without Simmons? Shooting?
Bad.
Probably more shooting, though. It's a different team without Simmons.
More shooting, but less talent on the court, just in general. I mean, Ben Simmons is really good, and his shooting did get better. I mean, better from 0.
0 to
still
1
better.
or something.
It's still better. I think the smart play, especially because Ben Simmons is still quite young, and the Sixers as a whole, for the key players that are, like, Embiid's still pretty young, he's still pretty young, just rest him. Like, just let him get better, come back next season, see what's going on, because I think to push him to play now is just dumb, unless somehow the Sixers catch absolute fire, then it's like, do you want to come back, all that stuff, but, like, for now, come back. Try again next year.
Here's a second question. So Horford's going to go into the starting lineup to replace Ben Simmons at power forward because they had moved Ben Simmons to power forward.
Correct.
Shake Milton to point guard.
It's a great name.
Shake Milton, I know, right?
Fantastic.
So let's say they do make a deep run, and we're looking at a team without Ben Simmons that is now better because they can do different things on the court because they have more shooters. Al Horford can shoot. And that team somehow makes it to the finals. Does that then bring up the question that lots of people have been saying, do Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid work together? Is this proof then that you maybe need to move on from one of them?
I mean, that'd be a tough call for the Sixers to make. I don't think they would do that just because I feel like, I don't know, unless they got some kind of monster deal or something, or for some reason just let one of them walk, I don't think that would happen. Just because they're too talented to let go, and they're too talented to not ask for, like, a huge return.
How long does Ben Simmons have left on his contract, I wonder?
Let's take a look. Probably a good amount of time.
Because is a trade impossible?
He's on a maximum contract extension. Jesus Christ, he's making so much money. I forgot how big contracts are in the NBA. Okay, he just agreed to a 5-year extension in 2019.
So a trade is possible if they were like, we want to roll.
It's possible, but in the NBA, the contract money has to match up.
Right.
For trades. So that's going to be tough.
So what are the chances we get Ben Simmons in a Kings jersey?
Negative.
We give him Harrison Barnes. And, well, we're losing Bogdan anyway, so I can't throw him in. Give him Bagley and Barnes.
I don't think the Sixers would do that. Somehow.
Okay, fair enough. All right, let's move on. And let's talk about your area of expertise. Expertise. In an area that I am a novice. And
an area that is literally my favorite part of sports.
Yeah. So let's talk about the state of college football currently as we're going into 2020, probably not 2020, maybe 2021. We'll see.
So basically, this happened either yesterday or the day before. The Mid-American Conference, which is still a D1 conference, there's the Power 5, which is the SEC, Big 12, ACC. I don't need to tell people who watch this that. But do you understand?
I understand
Group of 5
that
is the smaller conference.
I get that the MAC conference, just by looking at the schools that are in it,
they're a mid-major, so they're a small-time D1 conference. They canceled all fall sports, and they can say it's for health and safety. It's really not. The only way that the mid-major conferences survive is when they schedule LSU or Alabama or these huge schools that literally will give the program like 6 figures, like $800,000 to come play them, because it's basically a free win on the schedule. They're called bye games. It's how smaller programs survive.
I know this from NCAA football.
Yes.
You got to put a couple of weak teams on the schedule.
Yes. So without that, because a lot of the bigger conferences went interconference only, it financially didn't make any sense for them to continue playing. And they were saying, well, we might do a spring season. Don't know how you're going to do that if you can swing it in the fall unless everybody pushes it back, which might be what happens. But we'll see that. But with that, that's kind of the biggest news, honestly, to come into college football, because that might be the first in line of dominoes.
Are they? So I know at least the Ivy League canceled
So
too.
The Ivy League is different though, because the Ivy League is like not. They usually don't play like they play each other. They'll never play
Right.
like a Big Ten school or an SEC school. They'll play Cornell, Brown. They'll play each other.
So are they the only two conferences that have?
I mean the smaller schools like oh god, I don't even remember the names of the smaller conferences, but like the D3 and D2 championships are canceled entirely. I don't know if they still have a season, but their championships are canceled, which sucks. And is when they say it's for health and safety, it's like, then why is D1 still going on? Like, this is stupid. Just say it's because you can't afford and we don't want to waste the money. The smaller, like the Division I AA's, which is, I think we explained this on a different episode, probably with our other podcasts.
Maybe.
It's kind of complicated to explain all at once, but smaller D1 schools are also done. It kind of is looking like it's just going to be the Power 5 conferences and maybe one Group of 5. Now, of course, the only one who've canceled right now is the MAC, and maybe they'll just keep going. If they can swing it, they can swing it. But yeah.
Okay. So big names have opted out from some of these bigger Power 5 schools.
Yes.
And
so
I can't tell you if this is a big deal or not, but I'm assuming you can.
It's a big deal because it sets a precedent. So say someone is a year removed from being draft eligible, but they had like a very good season. Their athletic profile is crazy. It kind of sets a precedent. It's like, well, why would I need to play for another year? Like, why can't I just sit out, train for the combine, kill the combine, get drafted? We're all hunky-dory. That's kind of what that precedent sets for me. Now, the only other problem with that is I don't think players would have the option to do that in a regular season. Like, they would lose their scholarship, all this other stuff. So maybe that won't happen. But with all the other player unions that are happening, like the Pac-12, the players are trying to make a union. Northwestern tried to make a union, and people were cut from the team and all that stuff. So bad look there. But so stuff's changing. Some of the player demands are a little ridiculous. Like, they want 50% of the revenue share, which will never happen. Like, that's unrealistic.
We just now are looking towards people can make money off their names and likeness.
Yeah, like completely unrealistic. I mean, should you get 50%? I don't know. I don't know how that all breaks down. But that's honestly a ridiculous request at this point, and kind of is like, dog, like, you gotta baby steps a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't ask for everything all at once. But whatever. But players who have sat out that I really wanted to see. Caleb Farley, who's a cornerback out of Virginia Tech. He's converted quarterback, I think, and wide receiver. He came there as a quarterback, then wide receiver, then corner. He could have been the best corner in this class. He's sitting out. He'll still be a late first, early second draft pick. Micah Parsons, who is a linebacker from Penn State, who was at one time their like starting kick returner when he weighed 230 pounds. He runs like 4'3", which is fucking ridiculous at 230 pounds. He'll be a first-round draft pick unless he gets hurt or he asses it up at the combine. He's basically a lock with his athletic profile. Rondale Moore, who's a wide receiver out of Purdue, is actually probably my favorite player to have opted out that I'm most disappointed by. He's another speed guy. He probably runs a 4.3. I don't remember what it was, but disappointed that he's opting out. Gregory Rousseau, who's defensive end out of Miami, who's projected to be like the best pass rusher in this class, he opted out. And then the last big name, let me make sure I'm not missing anybody. Rashad Bateman, who was probably going to be a top 50 pick out of Minnesota. Okay, last guy who opted out, who I'm 1,000% sure would be the Vikings pick. If all like just makes too much sense, would be Jalen Twyman, who's a defensive lineman out of Pitt. He's really good. So far, those are the highest profile. I don't think you'll see any like Trevor Lawrence's or Justin Fields. Like, I don't think you'll see them opt out just because I don't think that'll happen.
Yay or nay? Trevor Lawrence is the Tom Brady of college football.
No.
Now, only reason I say that is I'm seeing all these posts from Trevor Lawrence, like the "we want to play" kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, I could see that.
That was the comparison I was making.
Yeah,
Where Tom Brady really
I
wants
could
to
see
play
that.
NFL football.
I could see that.
Trevor Lawrence really wants to play some college football.
He's kind of the whole face. I guess you could say that. He's kind of the face of college football because he's looked to be like the best prospect and all that. He's been in the first-round draft pick since he was a true freshman, so whatever.
He's been a first-round draft pick since I saw him in the Elite 11 in like 2015.
Yes. So, I mean, yeah. With that being said, I really hope college football happens. Obviously, if it is actually a player safety thing, then I get it. If it's a money thing, I think the NCAA will be fine. I mean, it is a business, so whatever. But we'll see.
I think you need the Power 5 schools.
Yeah, and the MAC opting out is kind of bad. Like, that's kind of a bad sign, but also at the same time, like, that's not going to affect schools or conferences that have already gone.
And the things we're watching on TV.
Exactly.
Like, I've never watched any of those schools when I looked through who was in that conference. I've never watched any of them on TV.
My other
TV time.
Yeah, my other concern is that if all of the weaker conferences drop out and it's just the Power 5, then it's like, well, we don't need these. Like, why are we even doing this? And then it goes from 120 whatever college football teams to 50, and it's like. So hope that doesn't happen because then you don't have the moments like Appalachian State beating Michigan, just the underdog moments where you don't have that. And that's part of the appeal of college football, I think, is that sometimes the impossible happens and it's just cool to watch. But yeah.
Okay. So I didn't get to chime in much there because I don't really know
Sorry.
shit.
I was just like, blah, 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 blah.
Well, what was I going to say? Like, nah, Jalen Twyman is not a first-round pick. I don't know.
Everyone who I listed that I went over is probably either a first or early second rounder. Probably.
College players come into my realm of understanding as soon as we get right after the college football season.
Yeah,
and then I know who's going to be in the draft.
Yes.
And I've already start hearing names.
As soon as the draft happened, like this past draft, I did a mock draft for next year because I'm stupid. So
it's good to have that voice because I don't know shit.
Yes. And people won't be like, well, you're a Browns fan. Of course you know the draft. Absolutely. That's like my favorite day of the year. 100%. Like,
I got to admit, I knew the draft. I knew college football better when the Vikings were really bad for a couple years.
Because you were like, ooh, I want to get that guy.
So. That was a fair point. Okay. Well, we're going to get into our 2013 NFL draft. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Oh!
Thrive Fantasy. All right. Thomas, do you like fantasy football?
I love fantasy football when the scoring is set correctly.
Do you like daily fantasy football?
I've only played a handful of times, but I'm looking to get into more. How should I do that, Justin?
Well, don't use any of those normal daily fantasy apps.
DraftKings, Schmafkings.
FanDuel, more like Smanduel.
More like fuck duel.
Use the Thrive Fantasy app. Do you know what sucks about daily fantasy, Thomas?
What sucks about daily fantasy, Justin?
You go, all right, best player in this week's going to be Christian McCaffrey. Let me grab that guy. All right?
Grab him.
You know who else has Christian McCaffrey on the team? Everyone else. And so what was the point, right? You have to look and be like, Auden Tate is going to be the highest scorer this week. It's just a gamble. You have no fucking clue.
You have no fucking clue.
And how does someone who just kind of likes football, doesn't watch it as intensely, doesn't watch every Cincinnati Bengals game, how are they going to project that stuff? Well, what Thrive Fantasy is looking to do with their unique format is to take all that stupid research out of it and give you the best players every week. So let's take the NFL, for example. We're looking at a week, you got options between Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, and we have prop bets for them. So let's say, it says Lamar Jackson is going to have 350 total yards. It's rushing and passing. You can do the over or the under, right? So let's say the over is less likely to happen. Well, that's worth more points. You're going to pick 5 of those, and then you're going to get a point total. If you pick all your bets right, you pick the riskier bets, and you win on them, you'll have more points, you win the tournament, you win money.
Money.
It's simple enough. And I think it's pretty cool because it's a little different than, and this is legit when I heard about this. It's different than daily fantasy because it kind of mixes the old school sports betting with the new school daily fantasy stuff. No one fucking wins daily fantasy because it's a fucking gamble. It's this is a gamble too, but this is a different kind of gamble. You don't have to know you're guessing out of thin air. There's no way you knew Auden Tate was going to score the most points this week. This is legit. You can look at Dak Prescott and go, is this dude going to have 4 touchdowns or not? You don't have to do a shit ton of research to figure out if Dak Prescott's going to have 4 touchdowns, at least your opinion.
Yes.
That's why I like that. So, the deal we have and why they are a sponsor. If you go to the Thrive Fantasy, you download the app, you sign up, you use our promo code, XTRAPOINT. It's one word. It's spelled with an X, like it is up there, right? One word, Extra Point. You use that when you sign up. With your first $20 deposit or more, you get $20 bonus cash. If you put in $20 and get the $20 bonus cash, it's pretty much getting free shit.
Yeah.
Who
doesn't like
your
free
$20
shit?
back, essentially. So go support us. Go support Thrive Fantasy. It's a cool app. I'm definitely going to be using it when I'm going to use it for basketball this season, and I'm going to use it for football. I don't know enough about MLB, PGA, all the other shit they have on there, but they have a ton of stuff on there. So if you're into golf, you're into baseball, go to Thrive Fantasy, sign up, use the promo code XTRAPOINT, one word with an X, get $20 bonus cash. All right.
Simple as that.
Let's move on to
Money.
our 2013 NFL Redraft. All right.
The
Do you have a coin?
2003, the 2003 penny from yesterday is making a return, as that is the only coin. Oh wait, there's another penny right here. We used
Yesterday.
last
Fucked up.
last
We don't
episode.
exist outside of the podcast.
It's like the Truman Show, but for a sports podcast. I have a 1986 penny and a 2003 penny. Which should I use?
1986, huh? Well, 2000. You got to use 2003 because it's closer. It's like
I already used the 1986 too. These pennies have been on my desk.
Well, I'm
So.
just saying 2003. You just add up one in there, and it's 2013.
There you go. 2003 is the winner.
Yeah.
All right, call it, sir.
I call it the same every week. Heads.
It is heads. So you have one. Would you like to go first or second?
I'm gonna go second because I'm interested who your first pick is.
All right, cool beans.
All right, so you're
So-
picking for the Kansas City Chiefs.
That I am. The Kansas City Chiefs here originally took Eric Fisher, an offensive tackle out of Central Michigan, who is fine. He's okay.
Fine.
He's a starting level player.
Does he
Get a
make your
rocky
top
start.
15 here?
No.
He does
No.
for me. That's how bad
Okay.
this class is.
Yeah,
Well, I
this
guess we
cla-
should set that up.
Full disclaimer: this class is awful.
Like, there's a
this
couple
class-
good guys, but
This class is so bad that a tight end makes my top 5, and
Yes.
a running back makes my top. We'll just say top 15 at all, because
Same.
usually I hate running backs.
yes,
But this is a very bad class.
it's not loaded with what you would quarterbacks,
Like,
edge rushers.
Yeah, like the premier positions. There's a handful of very good offensive tackles here.
Very
but-
good, but not the elite level. The
We'll see.
elite level, I don't know.
Okay. Well, speaking of elite level offensive tackles, the Kansas City Chiefs here select David Bakatari, an offensive tackle out of Colorado, I believe. In my opinion, he's the best left tackle in this class. Lane Johnson is also in this class, but he's more of a right tackle. I think it's a fairly easy pick.
I think our rankings are very different,
that's
which
fine.
I thought it was going to be because
It'll be less boring
he is
than last
my-
episode then.
he's my third ranked offensive tackle.
Okay. I mean, if it was more about like a tackle as a tackle, he'd probably be my second. But since Lane Johnson primarily plays right, and he's better at right, and Bakatari primarily
I
plays
think
left.
you're ignoring someone important here who I'll probably
Oh,
take and we'll get to talking
No,
about.
I know who you're talking about. But I just like him better. I like Bakatari better than that guy.
Here's my argument against Bakhtiari.
Is it Bakhtiari? Thank you for correcting me.
He is a Packer, but I didn't have that bias. If I really had a Packer bias, I wouldn't have put him in my top 10. All right? So there's not a Packer bias here. The thing with him is he's probably past his peak at this point. We're
Fine.
seeing a decline in his play. He was at one point. There was a 2016 to 2019 stretch where he was in the conversation for best left tackle in the league. He probably wasn't, but he wasn't the best left tackle, but he was in the conversation. People could bring him up and make some valid points. So what brought him down my ranking is that was a short peak. It was 3 years. And now we're kind of starting to see a decline. And it's very possible I'm wrong. And he just starts going back up because he is fairly young, 2013. And this was a theme with this class. I know. I use a lot of hands. That's the problem with the video now is you're going to see my hands move a lot.
Yes.
A theme with this class is that a lot of players peaked early and then started to kind of go down. And it's crazy because when you look at the 2010 class or 2011 class, some of those players are still in their peak.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these players in this class 3 years later are past their peak, which I think is crazy.
So my counter to that is the Packers' offensive play calling has been horrendous, even with their new coach, for a time. So while I disagree that he's on a downward turn, I think the Packers' offense has just been on a downward turn in general for a while. So agree to disagree, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I won't reveal who my top-rated tackle is, and it's
I think
not
I know
Lane
who
Johnson.
it is. Yeah, no. I know who it is. I know exactly who it is.
But let me see. Maybe I will reveal. Let me look at this next pick here with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who originally took an offensive tackle. This looked like, at the time, looked like a loaded offensive tackle class. And now, still kind of does.
Yeah, I mean, four legit, I'll say 3 legit first-round picks. That's a good.
All right.
That's a good class.
So they took Luke Jokel. When I looked at this team,
Yokel.
Is it Yokel? Is it Jokel?
It's Jokel. I called him Yokel because he sucks. But
yeah, that was not a great pick at the time. Now, especially in retrospect, when you can look at all these tackles that turned out to have pretty good careers. But all right, so when I looked through the roster, this was still peak Jacksonville Jaguars, as in peak at being bad.
LOL Jags, yes.
Yeah. So really, any player would have been an upgrade to that team. So then, of course, you got to look at best available. So when I look at my big board, who I have number 1 ranked is wide receiver Deandre Hopkins.
Yes.
He is one of the best receivers still.
He's a strong number 2 to Julio Jones' number 1.
Yes, he may, because Julio Jones probably is sort of kind of getting, and who knows?
He's
but he's getting older.
The Falcons are sort of kind of the Falcons, but yes.
And we don't know how he's going to be with the Cardinals. So maybe that doesn't work, but it probably will because Kyler Murray's good.
Yes.
And
Cliff Kingsbury, baby.
Cliff Kingsbury can probably be pretty good. He hasn't shown it yet, but it's first year and he was a college coach.
Yes.
But that team looks to be heading in an upward trajectory. And so it's very likely DeAndre Hopkins is going to have more years of good play.
Yes.
There's not much that has to be said about DeAndre Hopkins.
If you don't know, you should know.
He's probably good. Already a Hall of Famer, just at this point.
I think he will be.
I don't see him winning a Super Bowl. So if that's what you're gonna like, you feel like,
that's not. So I agree with you that he's Hall of Fame talent. Just the Hall of Fame voting is weird and archaic and stupid. So I don't know.
I learned a little bit about how it worked recently, and it might put DeAndre Hopkins' career as a Hall of Famer kind of up in the air because what they have to do is so each team has like a representative, and it's like usually a media person. And then they meet in like some summit, and each person from each team has to be like, this is the guy from my team who deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Then you have to make a case and then try to get people to agree, and then he goes in.
I think what they should do is like, this player has been retired for 5 years. He's not coming back. Should he be in the Hall of Fame? Yes, no? Yes. All right, he is. Cool. Not, we can only enshrine 7 players a year, and it has to be voted on, and we're going to just say no to T.O. for like a decade because we think he's a poopy face. Like, that was just stupid.
DeAndre Hopkins has not been a poopy face.
He has not been a poopy face to our knowledge.
Apparently he was a poopy face in college.
If
you get the reference. But no problems in the NFL as far as I know.
Did that really happen? That seems so out of character.
It does seem. I remember. I always think back to that because I always forget that happened. But I remember talking about it in college.
If you don't know, apparently at a hotel, was it the Combine or the Senior Bowl or something?
It was something like that.
Whatever event it was, DeAndre Hopkins checked out and they came to clean the room and there was poop all over the walls. So I don't know how that's not talked about more, to be honest, because that's so
This is
absurd.
literally
and so
never
ridiculous.
talked about.
Maybe that's not true. Maybe that was confirmed to be not true. If that was great, because that's just a weird thing to
It's
have
something
happen.
that's been in my head for years. That I'm
Yes.
watching this dude jump up and catch a ball in the air, and I go, there was his poop on those hands.
He was like, "Yeah, this is what a prank."
He's like, let me
Whatever.
make a Van Gogh on this wall with my shit.
Maybe he was framed. Maybe like the cleaning staff was like, "I'm gonna get poop on these walls. I'm gonna get some money from this NFL player."
He was an NFL player at the time.
And you also have to take into account he had a kind of a slow start, but that might have been more because
Who was the
Gary
quarterback
Kubiak.
when he came in?
Matt Schaub, but Matt Schaub was good, and he still had a good season.
It wasn't
At
much Matt
some
Schaub,
point.
though. Was it? Didn't it quickly go to like T.J. Yates?
TJ Yates. But TJ is also like all right.
But
Like
he's
I don't
not
think you can
Deshaun
really
Watson.
blame the quarterback because it wasn't that he didn't have stats; it's that he wasn't really on the field a lot. I think the story was he kept having bad practices and fucking up routes, which maybe that's wrong. I don't know. But after I think 1 or 2 years of that, then he kind of came on and he's been a top 3 receiver ever since.
Okay. So Jacksonville Jaguars, number 2, take DeAndre Hopkins. Who, for my money, is the best player in this class? Would you now? Do you only have Bakhtiari? Where would you have Hopkins ranked? Let me ask that first.
If not 1, 2.
So I'm wondering if your Bakhtiari pick was only positional, just because he plays a more important position.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, because I think Hopkins is the most talented player in this class.
I'd have to agree.
There's another guy who's right next to him in terms of talent, but his positional value has dropped him down my list. But all right, let's move to number 3, your pick, the Miami Dolphins.
Miami Dolphins. So, originally, I had DeAndre Hopkins getting this far, and he was the pick here. But looking at the Dolphins roster, this is when they were like, all right. They were under, is it Joe Philbin or Bruce Philbin? What the hell's his name? Joe Philbin. Who the fuck is Bruce Philbin? Whatever. And they were fine. They were the definition of mediocrity. Looking all over the roster, they're fine everywhere. This is when Ryan Tannehill was their starting quarterback. Ryan Tannehill is good. I will die on that hill. They had a clear need at wide receiver, but unfortunately, the best wide receiver was just taken. Their starting tackles at this point were Jonathan Martin, who, if you remember, was the whole bullying thing with Richie Incognito. Tyson Clabo, who is pretty good at this point, but he's just kind of been a journeyman. Bryant McKinney, who was all right as well. So I think an upgrade there for someone who's still playing at a high level today is in order, and that player is Teron Armstead, an offensive tackle out of Arkansas Pine Bluff. He's super athletic. He's very, very good. I just prefer Bakhtiari, is that how you say his name? Over him, but Teron Armstead, that's really a matter of preference. Teron Armstead's super good. Both, I think, are top 10 tackles in the league easily. So just preference there.
So, of course, one of the best players, one of the most important positions on one of the best offensive line units in the NFL.
Correct.
Why that's a big part of the reason he's ranked so high for me.
Like I said, I think it's more preference than anything. So.
Okay. He's gotten better every year. So he started a little slow. He's gotten better each and every year. And I don't think the best has come for him yet. That's the biggest difference there with him and Bakhtiari for me. I feel like he's just hitting stride.
Sure. But I also think the Saints offense does a lot for him in terms of pass sets, because most of the time they kind of run, I don't want to say like Washington State spread, because it's not that, but they have a very high volume passing game, and a lot of that is a lot of the quick game, especially when you have receivers like Michael Thomas, who can run slants 70% of the time, which is not a knock. It's just a very quick passing game, so that helps a lot in your pass setting. Drew Brees isn't the most like wait for pressure to happen. Navigate pressure. He's good at it, but that's not what happens a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So he doesn't really have to do a lot of cleanup work. It's mainly just straight up pass pro, which he's good at. So whatever.
Can that also be an argument against Bakhtiari though? Because you're bailed out by a quarterback who's so mobile and is
Not
so
necessarily.
elusive that
not
even if your
necessarily
pocket
just
breaks
because-
down because you didn't block too well, you're like, well, my quarterback can probably still get the ball.
Well, Bakhtiari also does a lot of cleanup duty on that end, so I think he helps the Rodgers a lot at that point. But another kind of easy pick, honestly. I think this episode will be more interesting because as we kind of get out of the top 5, it's kind of like you could really go a lot of directions. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah. So.
Okay. So Teron Armstead taken here at 3. So we've had 2 left tackles go here in the first 3 picks. Let me mark this so I don't forget.
I know, I always do that too.
Gotta put X's next to their name so I know I can't pick them. All right, so now let me look who I'm picking for. I am picking at number 4 for the Philadelphia Eagles, a team that at one point I did not like. But they suck, so now I don't not like them anymore.
They don't suck. They're just not very good.
Apparently they sucked at this point. They were picking 4th in the draft. I don't know if this is a trade. Maybe I'm wrong. But they were picking 4th in this draft. Probably weren't very good. They picked Lane Johnson. Premier right tackle in the league.
Correct.
Probably the best right tackle in the league.
There's an argument for sure.
Probably the best run blocking right tackle in the league.
There's an argument for sure.
Okay. I have other guys ranked ahead of Lane Johnson here.
Mm-hmm.
But now let me go look back at their needs again. Okay, so they didn't need a left tackle at this time.
Did not.
They did not need a left guard. And they had Nick Foles at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking at his stats for that season. I was like, oh, yeah, Nick Foles started. Let me look. He had 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions on the season.
No, he was good. Nick Foles
was
was very good this year.
Yeah, so I don't think they had a quarterback need. Not that there was any quarterbacks to take here.
Mm-hmm.
So could really upgrade anywhere else besides those 3 positions. What's funny is I'm between 2 players who are currently on the team.
Okay. Interesting.
And I'm going to go ahead and take Lane Johnson.
Okay.
Even though I have the other player ranked higher.
All right. Okay. I get you. Okay.
Lane Johnson, consistent top 10 tackle in the league since he's pretty much been in the league.
Needs to stop taking PEDs.
I will let you know, Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, half of your face is in the screen.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. I was setting up to scratch my back, so that's what was going on there.
I was just seeing like your beard. That's all we're going to see for the rest of the podcast. Anyway, as I was saying, dominant run blocker.
Yes.
He doesn't miss a beat except when unforeseen circumstances happen.
When he takes PEDs.
Or injuries.
Or when he takes PEDs.
So things like that derailed it a little bit. But when he does play, very, very good.
Yes.
And I think he's probably the best right tackle in the league currently.
That's fair. I mean, it's not a wrong opinion.
I'll take him here. Don't fix something that's not broken.
Mm-hmm.
Take him here. Lane Johnson to the Philadelphia. The Eagles at 4.
All right. So I'm picking for the Detroit Lions, who at this point were also like fine. They were okay. They went 7-9 this following year. This might have been the last year of Jim Schwartz, possibly. Yes, this is the last year under Jim Schwartz. So this is actually probably the best that they've been in a while. Kind of, if you look at their roster, it's kind of depressing to look at it now because they had Calvin Johnson, they had a decent offensive line, they of course had Matthew Stafford. They had a decent running back room. With Reggie Bush being the premier name, not that he really did much in Detroit, but they had Joique Bell and Theo Riddick as well, who were fine. So not a huge need at running back there. Wide receivers, they still had Calvin Johnson. They had Nate Burleson when he was still all right, so not a huge pressing need there. Their defense was actually quite good at this point. They had DeAndre Levy, who when he was playing well was really, really, really good. He kind of fell off after a little bit. Not a whole lot of pressing needs here. So I'm going to go with who I think is the best player available.
Okay.
This is regardless of positional value, and this hurts me to draft a tight end this high.
Oh,
but it
okay.
is Travis Kelsey, tight end out of Cincinnati. Their tight end situation at this point was Brandon Pettigrew was their starter, who they had big plans for, but he kind of never materialized. They had Joseph Faria, who was okay, or they would have drafted Joseph Faria this year. And otherwise, nobody really that remarkable. So I think you get a player who is, if not one, he's the second best tight end in the league right now. He's still playing at a high level. So no brainer there. I think that's pretty easy. You finally get Stafford a tight end, finally, because he didn't have one that didn't drop everything.
Yeah.
Forever.
Is
Hopefully
that a
they have
shot at
that
Eric
now.
Ebron?
Yeah.
He's gonna come after us, bro.
Get him on the show. I'll talk to him. It's fine. I'll interview him.
This guy thinks you suck.
I don't think he sucks. He can't deny that he did not have good hands at Detroit. So
Okay. Travis Kelsey, not a terrible pick there. Only thing going against him, I have him ranked as a top 5 talent on my board, so he should be within the top 5 picks. Of course, he's a tight end. And
yes,
if you'll remember from the first one, I took Rob Gronkowski first.
Mm-hmm.
But Travis Kelsey is a step below Rob Gronkowski.
Step below, and that class was also good. This class is pretty not good. So
Yeah.
I kind of just had to do it.
So here's the thing. Here's a stat that I thought was very crazy about Travis Kelsey.
All right.
So no tight end in NFL history has had more than 4 1,000-yard seasons. All right.
Kittle will fix that.
Travis Kelsey has just had 4 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons in the last 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So he's on track to break that record, I think.
He's good. He's good.
Yeah.
If
George
he's
Kittle
not
also very good.
Yeah. If
Good
he's
shout.
not the best tight end, he's the second, and I don't think that's really up for debate. I think 1 and 2 are Kittle or Kelsey, and that's interchangeable. But I think past that, you can kind of have whoever. So
Did a second tight end make your top 15?
no.
He slipped into mine at 14.
That would be where he would be he'd be just in if he made it for me.
We'll see if he gets taken here. All right.
We shall see.
So you just picked for the Lions. Now I get to pick for the Brownies.
New uniforms looking clean. We look great. We're gonna maybe win some games, hopefully.
Thomas loves to just slam his mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot the mic sits here. It's not because when we did the show, it was just my phone, so I was free to do whatever. But yes, that was great. Yes.
All right. So you guys took Barkevious Mingo.
Ah.
Can you extrapolate a little bit on your experiences with Barkevious Mingo?
Barkevious Mingo, he was fine. He was an okay player. We thought we were going to develop him to pass rusher, like a linebacker / defensive end. That was the plan. Obviously, it didn't pan out that way. This was kind of the age of the Browns where we continually fucked up every possible draft. Like, not even just like every first round pick. Like, if you look at our classes, they've usually been universally terrible. I think this is like the first year of that. If not, that might be the second year, actually. Whatever year we picked Joe Hayden was like the last good draft class we had for a while, until we picked Myles Garrett. So Mingo was okay. I didn't dislike Mingo. He just never developed. Our defensive coordinator at the time didn't even assign players gaps, which if you have ever played football or if you know anything about like the defensive side of football, that's insane. Fun fact, I wanted the Browns to draft the corner out of Bama here. His name is D. Milner, who turned out to be also major ass.
So maybe you shouldn't have been. Maybe you shouldn't be criticizing their draft picks here.
Well, that was also when I was. What year is this? 2013. I was like 14, 15. So I don't know what the fuck I was talking about. So
Fair point. 14, 15.
Yeah, that's 7 years ago, wasn't it? 16, maybe.
16, maybe. I'm gonna say this every episode.
Mm-hmm.
Don't need to
Best
address
player
the
available.
offensive line.
Don't. It's the only strength of our team for this
Everywhere
time.
else could use improvement. I actually put strong safety into this category because I think T.J. Ward was fine.
T.J. Ward was okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if you need to upgrade there.
A lot of directions you go here, for sure.
Yeah. So you had Joe Hayden,
Mm-hmm.
but you didn't have a second. You had Buster Screen as your second corner.
who was okay for us. He's a little too small to play on the boundary, and he liked to get pass interference penalties. But he was all right. He was okay. When we let him walk in free agency, I was set.
Definitely a position you could upgrade.
Absolutely.
And this guy has fallen here for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I might as well take him.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put Darius Slay
That's a good pick. That would
on
be
the
my
Cleveland
pick too.
Browns. Elite nickel corner who can just as easily play outside.
Yes.
The team he has been on and his situation on being on a poor defense for the last few years has made him somewhat underrated.
Yes.
And a name that doesn't get talked
Lions.
about enough. Now he's on the Eagles. I think he's getting a little more respect just because he switched teams. That's how crazy it is.
Yes.
He's probably one of the few players here that has an even brighter future ahead of them.
Yes, I agree.
Now you're on a team that's probably going to be a little more competent and probably will know how to use you better, and you're probably going to get more Pro Bowl votes, more All-Pro votes, things like that.
Yes,
I
get
think
more
his
respect.
stock will rise in the coming years. I had him ranked as my second best player in this class.
He's top 5 for me, but he's not second.
And because I think cornerback is a valuable position.
I do too.
So
yes.
I that's part of the reason he goes up there. And so him alongside Joe Hayden, I think it works. I don't think there was any pass rushers here that were worth taking. So I think you have to take Darius Slay. Probably upgrades your defense pretty significantly.
Yes.
Immediately. And so that would have been the right pick at that time, I think. Of course, they didn't know that.
Yes.
But anyway, okay.
I did not know that. Yeah, correct.
Let's move on to your next pick with the Arizona Cardinals.
Okay,
7.
so the Arizona Cardinals at this point were a pretty good team. They had Carson Palmer at this point. Bruce Arians was their head coach. This was their, I don't want to say their golden age, but this is when they were pretty good. They had a pretty decent team. They had good pieces, kind of most spots. They had on the defense, they had Passes Prime, Jonathan Abraham, who was still playing well, Carlos Dansby, who was still playing playing well, Darrell Washington, who was playing well for them. In the defensive backfield, they had Pat Peterson. They would sign Tony Jefferson as an undrafted free agent after this draft, so pretty good there. They still had Larry Fitzgerald. They had Michael Floyd, who, of course, underperformed for them. Tight ends, no one to write home about, but okay. So I think looking at their roster and looking at where you can make an immediate impact as an upgrade, I think basically we're going against everything that I stand for, and of drafting Le'Veon Bell, running back out of Michigan State University, for the Cardinals here. On this team, they had Andre Ellington and Stephon Taylor were their draft picks this year. Their starter would be Rashard Mendenhall, who was past his prime after his time with the Steelers. Solid, okay players, but I think Bell is an immediate upgrade that honestly probably steps this offense up just for his ability as a receiver as well. So one of the few running backs that when he wasn't on an Adam Gase ran offense almost mattered, I'll say. So Le'Veon Bell.
I don't hate the pick. Now, this pick he probably would have gone in the top 3 5 years ago.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
But recency bias is not working for Bell in 2 ways, really. So, 1, running backs have dropped in value, obviously.
They don't matter.
And then 2, last season was awfully rough on Bell.
Big rough.
Yeah, and so now you have in people's heads this question, is he actually that good, or were the Steelers just a great situation for him?
No, he's actually that good, but I understand what you're saying, but
that is planted in some people's heads.
Yes, well, they need to be smarter.
Now, I wouldn't have paid Le'Veon Bell as much money as he's getting.
Well, running backs.
So I don't know. 7 might be a bit high for me. I had him as my 13th ranked player here. probably some guys that are more at more important positions I might have taken.
I agree, but the need was that not need, but I think that's an immediate impact player for this team that I think would have more of an impact than certain others.
This team at the time had Super Bowl aspirations, if I remember correctly. This was the Carson Palmer.
They went to the Super Bowl in 2009, 2010.
Yeah, but this is Carson Palmer era.
Yes,
Cardinals,
this is what I mean. Carson Palmer was also super good.
Yeah, no, this was a team. They made the playoffs, right?
Yeah, they went 10-6 after this year. So yes.
So Le'Veon Bell added to that team. That probably helps a lot. We're a team that was that close. Now, of course, when you look at the roster and you think like long term, probably better guys they could have got. But if you think this team was in win now mode, you had a guy like Le'Veon Bell to the offense. Also, another thing that's fucking Le'Veon Bell over here is like immediately after him came like a bunch of young stud running backs, like Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley types that immediately made you forget about how good Le'Veon Bell was.
That is true. And also Le'Veon Bell had a rough start to his career when he was pulled over and said he didn't know he could get a DUI for being high. So that's Le'Veon Bell. But before he kept getting hurt on the Steelers and before the contract situation happened, he was, like I said, one of the few running backs that almost was mattered.
He was
still
a number one pick in fantasy every year for like 5 years.
Yes.
So
yes,
if that can put it into perspective for anyone. Anyone new viewers who are like Le'Veon Bell running back. One point Le'Veon Bell was like
the shit.
You were like, if this guy was on my team, I'd be winning Super Bowls.
Yes,
that's what we used to value running backs like. Not so much today. All right, so who am I picking for? Let me look. You just picked for the Cardinals at 7, so now I am picking for the St. Louis Rams. I always seem to get the St. Louis Rams.
Yes.
I don't know how this always happens. And then I look at the roster and go, wow, they could use anything. So only position maybe was DN at this time because they had Chris Long and Robert Quinn. They probably could be fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
They took Tavon Austin, who I remember at the time. What's funny is now we're getting into like years that I can vividly remember how I thought about these players when they were coming in. I thought Tavon Austin was the shit.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was like, I want the Viking. I want him to fall because he's small, and then we're going to pick this guy. And he's going to be like Percy Harvin 3.0. He's gone a step above. Mm-hmm. But okay, yeah, Tavon Austin didn't really work out.
No.
So do they take a wide receiver here? It's definitely possible.
Mm-hmm.
There are two options here, but they are slightly lower on my list than some other players. This team wasn't going to win games, no matter who you added.
Correct.
So does adding a wide receiver, is that worth it?
Depends on the wide receiver.
I'm going to take who I think is the best player available.
Okay.
Another guy who's fallen down my boards.
Okay.
Not fallen down my boards, fallen in this draft, even though he was highly rated on my board.
Yes.
And that's positional value that has fucked him here, and that is Tyron Matthew.
Okay.
So that's going to be my pick. Now, he's had a very up and down career. He's been great, and then kind of like, he's okay. Been great, kind of okay. I think really at this point in his career has stepped into like a new sort of persona and role on that defense. He's constantly been like a good safety.
Yes.
Now, what really helps him for me is he was a leader, the defensive leader, on a Super Bowl winning team.
Mm-hmm.
That helps. So if you're looking long term, if the Rams could somehow keep Tyron Matthew for years, then that's probably a better situation for you than having a wide receiver at this point.
Yes.
He's not a guy who's ever going to compete for that number one spot as a safety, but he's still been consistently kind of like at the top, floating around there. You go, this guy's very good. Been on 3 teams. In his own words, I read this interview when doing some research. He said he is too good to have been on 3 different teams, which I totally agree with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's got all the talent, and I think it's starting to click now, and that's a thing I value, that we might be hitting somewhat of a, he's still in a prime.
The only thing you have to take into account with him, and this is not having anything to do with his talent, so you can't really count this for the draft, is that when he came in the league, he kind of had issues that he had to deal with, and him going to the Cardinals originally, where his like friend from college, Patrick Peterson, was there. Like he lived with Patrick Peterson for a while, for like years. So that kind of had to. I don't know if that would still happen in St. Louis, but that's not. I don't think you can take that into account in a redraft because then that's looking too deep into that. Talent-wise, that's a good pick. I agree with that.
Yeah, I think he's one of the most talented safeties, and it's lots of it's intangible stuff too.
Yeah,
I think he is a good leader now. I think the experiences that he's had and the problems that he's had and the lows that he's had have built his character to a point where he can now be a leader on your defense and connect with players on your defense. So he's very talented, but it goes above talent for me. If you're looking long term, there was options here at like wide receiver, but I like to pick, especially for a team that probably, we saw they didn't win until very recently. This team was bad for a very long time.
Yes.
Also, can you look at the roster real quick and tell me their starting quarterback's name for the season after this draft? So the 2013. It's to be the 2013.
Louis. It'd be 2013?
Yeah, because it would be 2013-2014 season, right? So
okay.
I think they call it 2013 Rams roster.
Yes.
Tell me if you recognize that name.
Give me scrolling. Are you talking about a certain? Oh, you son of a bitch, Wikipedia. Sorry, hold on.
That's where you fucked up. Yeah, use Pro Football Reference.
Well, usually it's just the rosters right there, and it's first. I should have known. One moment while I look up stuff.
You're ruining my bit here, Tom.
Thomas is incompetent. One moment.
You've killed the bit.
I know. I'm sorry. I killed the bit. So, are you talking about one stars and roster? Come on. Why don't you just tell me who it is, Justin? Because
I can't remember the name.
You can't remember his name. Great. Rushing, receiving.
God, let me 2013 Rams roster. It's all you got to Google. It's the first one.
I did.
Kellen Clemens.
Oh, Kellen Clemens.
I don't know who that is.
The only reason I know who Kellen Clemens is because he was playing the Browns in the preseason game, and at one point in time, Bernie Kosar, Browns or preseason announcer. You don't know Bernie Kosar? He was a Browns quarterback legend. He played for a while. He has difficulty speaking now, but he basically said that Kellen Clemens' parents would be ashamed and disown him after the display tonight in the preseason. That's how I know Kellen Clemens. So,
it was a name. He's 30 at this point on this team, but this team wasn't going to win shit.
Yes, this team was not going to win. So
there was nothing I could do here in this draft to add here. I just got to think long term. So Tyron Matthew was the pick.
Yes.
Now let's ignore the fact Thomas just killed my fucking bit.
I'm sorry.
All right. Who are you picking? The Jets.
Yes, I'm picking for the New York Jets. So if you look at their roster, they weren't very good at this point. This is when they had Geno Smith. Rex Ryan was still their coach. A lot of the teams that I'm getting have been like, you look at their roster and it's like, it's fine everywhere. This is the point in the Jets' time where they did not have an edge rusher that was any good, and they still don't to this day. They have a decent linebacking core in Demario Davis, and Nick Bellore is actually pretty good at this point as well. Calvin Pace was okay. Offense was all right. Their quarterback situation was bad, but there's not a quarterback that you can really take here. Their O-line situation was still pretty good. They still had DeBrickashaw Ferguson, which is one of the greatest names in NFL history. Defensive linemen, they had... Wow, I forgot they had Damon Harrison. Damon Harrison, they would draft Sheldon Richardson later. Harrison's okay. I think the only pick here you can really make is a defensive back, and that defensive back would end up being, for me, Desmond Truffaut, cornerback out of Washington. He was a very he was a very good starter for the Falcons for a number of years. He's currently going to play opposite Jeffrey Okudah on the Lions as their CB2. He might play CB1 until Okudah comes along. He's still a starting caliber player. He's better off as a number 2 right now, but he had 4 or 5 year stretch where he was very, very good, super good. So I think that's worth it for the Jets right now.
So I didn't miss him, but I sort of glossed over Desmond Truffaut. So he didn't even make my list. But I mean, in retrospect, he probably should have. But I think as I was going through the list and I looked at his name, I was like, oh, there will be better players here, and I'll add those guys. There wasn't, and so he probably makes the list. I kind of missed him. So I don't have really notes about him, but he is like a super solid option at corner. Like, he's a guy you can put there and feel comfortable that for the most part he's not going to fuck up. Yeah. And that's probably the best I could say about him. He's never been like an elite guy. Like,
he was pretty close in his first few years in Atlanta. He was very good his first few years in Atlanta. Why is that hard to say?
Broads in Atlanta?
Panda?
Yeah. You get what I'm getting
picking
at
up your vibe, dude.
So you just went DB for DB. So I wrote for this team that they could take whoever and probably get an upgrade. Though that has been I still wrote that, but we've gotten to the point in this draft where it can't always necessarily. It's not like it's not like all 15 players are like Pro Bowl caliber players.
Exactly. Yes.
So now it's like, well, is it really? Can they upgrade any position? So I might have some problems here going on. But all right, so I'm not mad at that pick. They took your guy originally, D. Milner, who you loved.
I did. This is before I was really like. So this was actually because last year would be the first draft that I was really like, let's get into the NFL draft. So this was probably the second year, so I wasn't quite ready yet. So
okay. So I'm picking here for the Titans. They originally picked Chance Warmack, guard. Another team, kind of best available situation, where they had a couple solid guys on the team, but no one who had any staying power. Even to this point, I don't know if there's any there might be starters who are still around, but there's no stars that are still around from that team.
From that team, yes. Sorry, I misunderstood you.
That are still around on that team. So I'm going to go ahead. We're going best available here. I'm going to go ahead and grab Travis Frederick.
Good pick. That was my pick, too.
So,
good pick.
Only knock about him is his career was cut short by health issues.
Yes. But
in that short career.
Yes, he's probably the best center in the league.
And he was a key piece of the most dominant offensive line in the NFL, where I said the Saints were one of the most. That during this period, everyone was like, I want the Cowboys offensive line. Like, how good would my team be with the Cowboys offensive line?
It's hilarious because when Travis Frederick was picked at the time, people were like, why?
People hate centers.
Yeah, because they're boring.
Terrible.
But you know what? They're fucking important. Exactly.
Second most important position on the offensive line. And I played center.
Important.
You know?
Yeah.
So I know.
Right tackle's not the most important. So
you're a good run blocker.
I was terrible at ball. But anyway.
Fuck, why'd you play right tackle?
It wouldn't have mattered.
You were too skinny to move to guard.
I was like 170. I was too skinny for offensive line.
Right tackle though, you can kind of be skinny and play right tackle.
On the JVB team, we did it up. You know what I'm saying?
All right, so yeah, I'm gonna take Travis Frederick there.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
Okay, so your pick for the Chargers, the San Diego Chargers, still.
San Diego at this point. So at this point, originally I had Tyron Matthew going because I had him falling this far. Looking at the Chargers roster, kind of the same story if everything they were fine. The Chargers have kind of also just been fine forever.
That's true.
Not a whole lot of weak spots. They originally took DJ Fluker at this point, who has kind of had an up and down career. He's been all right, but he's also just not stuck. They had Melvin Ingram at this point, so they had decent pass rushers. Their linebacking core was okay at this point. Their defensive backfield was pretty all right at this point. Eric Weddle fixes a lot of problems they have. Looking at who they need and what they need, I'm going to take the easy way out. I'm just going to take Keenan Allen here, as opposed to somebody else, because I think that's just the easiest pick here. Their wide receiver room at this point was Denario Alexander, who's hurt, Malcolm Floyd, who was all right, but kind of tail end of his career. They had Eddie Royal at this point, who was okay, but more of a kick returning role. Past that, not much. So I think Keenan Allen's the easy pick here. You could probably also go offensive line here as well, as did originally, but I think talent-wise, I think Keenan Allen's the guy there.
I mean, this is about where I had him slotted in my rankings. Did you think I was going to fight you about him and another player?
Possible.
Now, here's the thing. I think both those players are, like, right here.
Neck
I do
and
think
neck, okay.
Keenan Allen's slightly better.
Okay.
But I think they both have the same issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they can't be a number one, really.
So
I think Keenan Allen can be in the right offense if he stays healthy.
I think he can be one of the best number twos in the league.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something about, like, he's not a deep threat. He doesn't have the best physical gifts.
He gets hurt a lot, and he's not a very physical wide receiver.
And he's very good route runner, and
probably the best route runner in the league. Yes,
maybe.
I would argue.
I think Stephon Diggs is in a conversation there too.
Definitely in the conversation.
Okay, and that's someone who should hate Stephon Diggs, but I don't. Keenan Allen. All right. He's like I said, a lot like another receiver. Not your stereotypical, one of the best route runners. But yeah, I'd love to rank him higher, but you're not a number one guy, you know.
Yeah.
It's hard to rank you.
You're not better than Mike Evans, Keenan Allen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Like, you're not.
Yes.
You're not.
Now he's gonna come for us too. You're making enemies.
Bring him on the show. That's fine. If he wants to yell at me for 5 minutes, that's content, baby.
That's views, baby.
That's views.
Unlimited.
So weird.
All right. So I'm taking the pick for the Oakland Raiders here at 12, who originally selected hometown Houston, DJ Hayden, corner. Didn't really pan out.
No, he had heart issues.
Yeah, that's sad. Because
He's still in the league, I think.
Houston is kind of, I wouldn't say a small school, but kind of a small school.
They're smaller. They were in Conference USA at this point, so they're a mid-major conference. They're a smaller school.
So, you know, rooting for Houston guys a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really work out. I kind of wanted the Vikings to pick DJ Hayden, but it didn't really work out, and probably for the better that we didn't. We got another corner in this class.
Yes, you did.
Will I take that corner here? Probably not. I don't think he ranks in my top 15.
He doesn't for me.
Though he was very good.
For like 2 years. 2-3 years?
Yeah,
maybe
something
4.
like that. Maybe 3 or 4. Okay. Another team. I keep getting these best available because really they just didn't have a ton on their team. That anything that makes me go like, oh, these are guys that can't be replaced here.
I know, when we get to the nitty gritty.
This is really tough because I have to start thinking like, this player, is he better than the players they already have on their team? Wow, this is where it gets really tough, huh? I'm between 2.
Okay.
One I have ranked 9, one I have ranked 12.
Okay.
But as I look at it, I don't know if that ranking was correct when I originally
All
did
right.
it. Let's just slot Adam Thielen in here.
Okay.
Because he's the third best wide receiver here. He's a number 2 option, but he's a very good number 2 option.
Okay.
And he's a guy who could probably, much like Keenan Allen's having to face, be your number 1, but not truly be your number 1. You know, like Keenan Allen is the number 1 wide receiver in San Diego. He's not in LA now.
Yeah.
But he's also a guy that you're probably not doubling. And the same's probably true about Adam Thielen.
Correct.
Adam Thielen, what he has going for him over Keenan Allen. Now, I did rank Keenan Allen above Adam Thielen, but what Adam Thielen has that Keenan Allen doesn't is Adam Thielen is much more physical, has a lot more physical gifts.
I agree.
Tall, he has long arms, he has great body control. He doesn't have speed, similar to Keenan Allen. They're not the fastest guys. but they're fast enough to get, do work in the slot. They can move outside if they have to. Adam Thielen much more so than Keenan Allen, I think, can move outside. But you know how much I love Adam Thielen, so I'm trying to not just fangirl here.
Everything you're saying is correct. You're not saying anything wrong.
I'm trying to not say things that are absurd.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's a very good red zone target because he is a bigger stature than Keenan Allen, so he can be, and he just is more physical than Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's not physical at all.
I think he's a sneaky good route runner. Obviously, not as good of a route runner as Keenan.
Sneaky athletic.
Sneaky route runner.
real lunch pail guy. Gym rat. White.
Adam Thielen is probably the best wide receiver in a long time. When you said white, it made me think about that. Wes Welker? Is that the only other argument? Julian Edelman?
I think he's better than Julian Edelman.
Yeah, me too.
Eric Decker. I don't
know.
No.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm going to put Adam Thielen here. He's been great for the Vikings. A guy who's undrafted, went to Mankato State, and it's something you hear every time you watch a Vikings game. Did you know that Adam Thielen was undrafted? He walked onto the team. He made the team. And I remember when Adam Thielen came in the league, and it was like, well, there's this guy who's doing pretty good. He's probably not going to make the team, but he's really all right. Maybe he'll make practice. Maybe he'll make the practice squad. And then you'd see highlights and you go, wow, this guy's pretty damn good. And then he slowly worked his way on the field year after year. He's not past his prime, is he? I don't know.
No, he's not. He's not at all. The Vikings' passing offense might be past his prime, but he himself is not. I would think he's still. What are you looking to be looking for?
What? I mean, just because we lost Stephon Diggs? That's it?
No, because you throw 8 times a game.
It changes. It varies. We started throwing more towards the end of the year.
If Cook still holds out, then yeah, you will have to pass more. So
I mean, it's crazy because now we're getting into a Vikings discussion. So last year we ran a shit ton. Year before that, we passed a shit ton, way too much. That was when we had
John DeFilippo.
And he just wanted to pass like fucking 80 times a game. That's all they wanted to do. Now, granted, Dalvin Cook was injured that season, so.
That's what I mean. If he still holds out, then
he's at camp, isn't he?
No, that was false, apparently.
Oh. Huh.
Yes.
I was under the impression he was at camp. Okay, well, we'll see what happens. Adam Thielen is going to be our number 1 wide receiver this year. Because Justin Jefferson isn't going to just come in and be our number 1 wide receiver.
He might.
I hope he does, but I think first-year wide receivers, it usually takes a year or 2.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So we'll see. I mean, I think Justin Jefferson can be good, but I think of course, Kirk Cousins already has chemistry with Adam Thielen, more so than he did with Stephon Diggs, for obvious reasons.
Yes.
No, Adam Thielen also would take shots at Kirk.
Adam Thielen hated Kirk Cousins, wanted to die.
But I don't think he did in the same way that Stephon Diggs does.
Well, because Stephon Diggs just he's bad. I don't know what you want me to say. And then Adam Thielen, he missed the pass. I mean, that's just what happened. It's the only thing that happened. And he yelled at him on the sideline, which was hilarious. Because Kirk is just there with the hat, guys, sideways. Guys, I'm really sorry. And they just be like, what the fuck, dude? Fuck, pass the ball. It was hilarious.
I think the difference is, I don't think Adam Thielen thinks Kirk Cousins is bad.
I think
Stephon Diggs thinks Kirk Cousins is bad.
Like I said, Stephon Diggs is going to have a bad time in Buffalo then.
Yeah, I like Josh Allen more than you, but that's a discussion for another time. All right, so I took Adam Thielen there. What's your next pick?
So I get the Jets again. They originally picked Sheldon Richardson here, and I'm going to keep it the same. They picked Sheldon Richardson. Sheldon Richardson, if he wasn't kind of a jerk face, which he kind of is, I think would be a much more appreciated player. He's really, really good. I don't have much to say. The Jets need another end opposite Muhammad Wilkerson at this point. And Muhammad Wilkerson is kind of entering the down part of his career. On the roster right now, all they have is Ledger Duzable, sorry, don't know if his name is Vat, and a bunch of tweener pass rushers like Quentin Coples. So I think Sheldon Richardson's the easy pick here. He had a bad end in New York, but that's because the Jets are a bad franchise, or were at the time. They still are. So his exit was bad. He had a little bit of legal trouble when he was in New York as well. But he's too good of a player to pass up because he was very, very good at the Jets when he was on the Jets. He was a big part of their defense being good.
So just looking at his career here, definitely had a better start than he has had recently.
Yes. He's had a lot of injury issues.
He's in Cleveland now.
He is on the Browns. He's been very good for us.
He was on the Vikings.
So
he's been on both our teams.
Yes, I think he was
actually
a
had
tackle.
one of his more productive years on the Vikings.
Yes,
4.5 sacks on the season. Obviously, his most productive was 2014. He was a Pro Bowl selection then. That was an 8-sack season for him.
So when he was brought into the league as a defensive end and kind of slowly transitioned more pass rushing 3-tech, which is a defensive tackle on the inside, opposite a nose tackle. So that's kind of why his sack numbers went down.
Right.
But he's still been a very, very good.
Yeah. No, I remember thinking he was a good player, and he was a player that we knew, the Vikings knew they weren't going to re-sign. It was kind of just like a 1-year bring-you-in deal, kind of prove-it deal. And he did well. He wasn't awful. He was probably the best interior defensive guy we've had in a while. And so, I have some respect for Sheldon Richardson. I don't know if he made my top 15. He just barely missed it. He was 16.
Okay.
So, but
I mean, that's fair.
We're getting to that point in the draft where
kind of pick your what you like. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to debate who's over who here. But all right, I'm gonna move on to the Panthers, who also picked a defensive tackle in Star Lutulele.
Lutulele, I don't know how to say it.
I think it's Lutulele.
Who has opted out of this upcoming season?
Yes. So at this time, the Panthers had Cam Newton. They had Ryan Khalil at center. Both those guys can stay. They had Luke Kuechly at middle linebacker. He can stay. And Thomas Davis at left outside linebacker, and he can stay. So all those guys are safe, and I'm not going to replace those positions. Not that there really was, even though there kind of is one guy who maybe could have slotted in, but they don't need linebackers. So he's going to fall. Well, do I get a chance to pick him again after this? I don't.
No.
I hope you pick him here for the Saints, which you might not.
I won't.
Yeah, you probably won't. Let's bolster that defense even more. And let's add Micah Hyde.
Okay, good pick.
So Micah Hyde is one part of one of the top safety duos in the NFL right now. He might be the lesser part at this point, and it's arguable. Jordan Poyer is very good, and he's kind of rising star. Whereas
Jordan Poyer.
Whereas Micah Hyde's kind of maybe sort of creeping towards a downward. Very highly paid safety, but that's because he was one of the more talented safeties in the NFL. But I think as time goes on, we're going to go in the next few years, his status is going to drop a little bit. And Jordan Poyer's status will go up, and you'll start kind of seeing who's the better of the two. But consistent, good role player, does what he needs to do at his position. Efficient in coverage, efficient against the run, always towards the top of the total tackles for his team. Just a super solid safety, and the fact that I have to take just a solid safety here is kind of sad, but
yeah, it's classic bad.
That's where I'm going to go here at 14 for the Panthers. Let's make that defense. What was Super Bowl year? 2015?
I don't remember the year exactly.
I want to say it was 2015.
Okay.
So, Micah Hyde on that defense, did they win that Super Bowl?
Probably not.
Probably not, because they didn't lose. Peyton Manning wasn't torching them.
Yes.
It was the fact the offense couldn't get going against how good that Broncos defense was.
Yes.
Okay, you get the last pick here for the New Orleans Saints.
All right. So the Saints originally here picked Kenny Vaccaro, a safety out of Texas. Originally, I had Micah Hyde falling to here.
Stolen.
So
keep doing that, apparently.
You do keep doing that to me. It's always looking at their roster. Of course, Drew Brees. Running back situation, they had Mark Ingram still. They would draft a guy named Robinson, who's actually okay for them. They had the OG Pierre Thomas who was so good for such a long time and then just retired. But I love Pierre Thomas. He's got a fun name to say, too. Rolls off the tongue very nice. Wide receiver-wise, they had Marcus Colston, one of the more underappreciated Saints players. Lance Moore when he was still really good. They would draft Kenny Stills later, who didn't really do that much for them. They still had Jimmy Graham when he was in his prime at tight end. They had Benjamin Watson, who was really good. They would draft Teron Armstead later. Their D-line, they had Akeem Hicks, who wasn't the Akeem Hicks of today, but he's still pretty good. Cam Jordan, so they're good there. Linebackers, lacking. DBs, besides Malcolm Jenkins and Roman Harper at this point, who is still playing well, a little lacking. So I'm between a corner and a linebacker.
Is it the linebacker, I think?
It is. It has to be, because I don't think there's another linebacker. Yeah. But they also...
Who's the corner?
The thing about the linebacker is I don't like the linebacker.
Well, okay, but you can't hold it against him because he was bad on your team, though.
Not because of that. Because just his play style, I'm not a huge fan of. So the two players that are in question are Jamie Collins, who's the linebacker, obviously. The corner in question is AJ Bouye. So,
I know who I would take.
Well, the thing about the Saints defense, though, and why they're so good right now is because they have a very good coverage linebacker, Mario Davis. So I'm thinking, I originally wrote down, like in all caps, AJ Bouye here, but I think I got to go Jamie Collins here for his skill set.
You were going to take him.
Jamie Collins in New England, super good, was used correctly. Came to Cleveland, was not good for us. He was okay. He didn't really do anything in terms of run stopping or pass rushing. He was probably strictly a coverage linebacker, which I don't like, but that's a personal preference thing. He was kind of soft for us, to be really honest with you. He would whiff on a lot of tackles. He would kind of not give the best pursuit angles. He would literally just jog sometimes, and it was like, what? Why? And people were like, well, the Browns were terrible. Yeah, we were, but play for your team.
Worked in New England.
He did work in New
and
England.
He's working in New England again.
And I think because he was on a good team, so he was like, let's win some damn games, all that. Jamie Collins is a very good linebacker, very good coverage linebacker. He's not the best run stopper or pass rusher, but I think the Saints clearly utilized that skill set today with Demario Davis, so I think that's the pick there. So
yeah, so he's not like your prototypical star defender. You know, he's a guy who can play almost any position on the front seven. Like, he's taken snaps at almost every position on the front seven. Like, if
That's
you just
correct.
look at he's taken snaps
in
at
New
the
England
tackle.
he did. Yes, at New England he did.
So he's a guy you can kind of slot in, and maybe you need someone creative like Bill Belichick to do that, because he doesn't fit well at any position.
Yeah.
But he's a guy that, because he's so versatile, if you know how to use him, he can be useful. And so I actually had him ranked pretty high.
Okay.
But
we did have Hugh Jackson as our head coach at the time he was there, so I can understand if he didn't want to play for Hugh Jackson.
Was Hugh Jackson your coach in 2013?
No, he wasn't. It was Mike Pettin. But Jamie Collins was there for the Hugh Jackson years, I'm fairly certain. Let's look up Jamie Collins' Browns career.
Thomas is Googling again.
But this is way easier. Yeah, he was on the Browns from 20. Oh, well, Jamie Collins wasn't on the Browns team.
You're right.
Yeah.
I don't know why I was thinking that.
That's all right. We both fucked up. So he was on there from 2016 to 2018, which was a Hugh Jackson year. So I can kind of understand if he was, this sucks. Wow, my head coach is an idiot. Great. So.
Okay, fair enough. I'm glad he made our top 15. Let's talk about guys who just missed the list. And I actually don't have a ton of them this
I
week.
have less than I usually do. So
I'm going to throw Xavier Rhodes out there.
Okay.
I think he's in the top 20.
A whole career. It's just that when he was bad, he was so bad.
But it was really just like 2 seasons that he was so bad.
But it's the 2 most recent seasons.
Yes, that's true.
So that's, I mean, if he returns to even like 80% in Indianapolis now, or is he on the Jets? Indianapolis. Then great, cool, you're back. But if he continues to be like that bad, then.
But even in that season, so not last season. He was really bad last season. The season before that, it was kind of up and down. But there were still moments where you're like, wow, this guy can still be very good because he's just so big. He's so physical. I think he did get a little less physical, and I think that's kind of what screwed him because he doesn't have the traits to, run after speedy guys. He has to be physical, and he kind of gave up on that, and that was his big problem. But like even in when we played the Saints, not most recently, the year before that, he locked up Michael Thomas for the most part. Like, he did probably as good a job as anyone could against Michael Thomas, and there was a reason you said roads closed, like that was a thing because he was good. It was bad. It was a terrible name, but he was a top 5 corner at his peak.
I agree. It's just that his peak was the thing is his peak was 2 years, maybe 3 years, but then outside of the peak, it goes from top 5 corner to like cut this dude.
I don't know. It's hard to debate. Like, what's the last 2 years? So we're going to say his downfall started in 2018. His downfall started in 2018. And then his rookie year wasn't that great because he had to figure out how not to get penalties. Yeah. Because he was too physical. So I guess you'll go 2014 to 2018. So that's a 4-year peak.
Yeah.
Which you got your first overall pick at a 4-year peak.
First overall pick. Yes and no.
So,
but at his peak, David Bakatari, whatever, DB, his peak was his peak, but he's still okay outside his peak. Still
that's true.
Good.
There was a dramatic drop off here.
Yeah, Rhodes is literally like Zimmer was like, bro, get off my team.
That's fair. So, but I mean, I agree with you. I had him at 16. So
he didn't make my. He's probably 21 if I did it. 20. I don't know how many players I have here, but he'd be like just out of even the just out list. So,
okay. Other names, not a ton.
Kawan Short, very good D tackle for the Panthers. Brandon Williams, who is on decline now, but he was very good for the Ravens. Zach Ertz.
That's a big one that was in my top 15 and did not get picked.
The best fantasy name ever, my ball, Zach Ertz. Classic. Always a good go-to. Eric Reed, a good safety. Tony Jefferson, who we talked about, was an undrafted free agent from this class. Justin Pugh, who is a pretty good guard / tackle, can play either or.
Ezekiel Anza is a name that I think here's the thing. If you were just looking at pure potential and when he actually gets to play, really good, but it's just too many. He doesn't get to play enough.
Too many injuries, and he doesn't. I mean, he's a decent pass rusher, but he's fine.
Yeah, I mean, he probably it was like close. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna put him in here. I definitely skimmed over his name and then went back when I realized how thin this class was. And then that's about the only other guy I'd mention here.
Maybe Benny Logan, a decent D tackle for the Eagles, and maybe Ricky Wagner was a good right tackle, whatever team he was on. So.
Okay. All right. That's our show. Hour and 43 minutes at this point.
I was going to say that's probably our shortest episode.
No, I think last week was our shortest.
Okay.
I think we were at like an hour 20.
Okay.
This one we're at hour 43, which isn't short. It's still almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
So thanks, guys, for watching this week. Make sure you like, comment. God, I'm terrible at this. Like, comment, subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at XtraPoint Media.
Smash that fucking like button.
Go download the Thrive Fantasy app. Put in the code XtraPoint, one word with an X. Get $20 bonus cash.
Do it.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.